And welcome in to This Week in Arsenal, episode 28. It is Sunday, September 17th, 2023, and we are coming to you live after a 1-0 win at Goodison Park. It's our first win away at Everton in the post-Arsene Wenger era. A really big result, and I'm here to talk about it. I'm Sham. You can follow me on Twitter at Shamsdale. With me, as always, is Sash at LT Arsenal. This is This Week in Arsenal. Again, you can follow the pod on Twitter at This Week Arsenal. Check us out on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Check out the pod there and subscribe on YouTube. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Hit the bell, comment, and we'll try to feature some comments as we go along as well. So, really, really big result. Really encouraging. I think we played really well despite the narrow scoreline. But Sash, how are you feeling about the result? And what does this mean? I guess for us coming off the back of an international break.
Yeah, personally, I'm just relieved, man. Like, I could not give a shit about the performance or anything else. This is a ground where we've struggled at different points. Like, we were losing even when we were bad, like in 2020, when we went like 8 games without winning. And we were even losing here last season when we were amazing. And through this, while Everton have been shocking throughout, but still they turn up and beat us on this one match. So, I really don't know what juju was going on in the stadium all these years, but I'm just happy that we have managed to win this match and get the 3 points back to London because that's all that was needed. Like, we're not at our best right now. And when you're not at your best, you still want to get the 3 points, you still want to win. And that's exactly what Arsenal have done. So, could not be more happy with the victory and to take the 3 points back home.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think with the Fulham game in mind, the way I'm thinking about a lot of these matches is we have a margin of error that we need to make right. And,
Hmm.
Everton's one of those, Everton away is one of those games last season that, and then not just last season, going back several years at this point, has always been a bit of um, a boogeyman fixture for us, right?
Hmm.
And to go in and get the 3 points, get the win, that's big. And I think for me, we're kind of back level to where I'd hoped we'd be at this point in the season, points wise. So yeah, it was really encouraging. And let's just jump right into the player performances, I think. And I think probably the headliner to talk about here is David Raya coming in for Aaron Ramsdale in goal.
Yeah.
Just before we talk about how he did, what do you think was behind that decision to put Ramsdale or to bench Ramsdale and put Raya in as the starter?
I think personally that Ramsdale recently has not been at his best. And I think he's a player who does not always transmit composure to the back line in terms of how we want to play out from the back. He's a player that's a bit, like he has incredible moments, but then he gives the ball away out of nowhere as well. So I think Arteta was a bit frustrated with that. And I think this is something that he has been looking at from the back end of last season that no, we need more composure here. And honestly, I've been speaking to people that are like working like in football who are goalkeeping coaches. And they actually tell me that David Raya at this moment is ahead of Ramsdale. And this is not to suggest that Ramsdale cannot become better because he has incredible potential. Like this was a guy who a few years ago was playing in, I think, England's second division. And for him to rise the way he has and actually go from there to playing at a team like Arsenal, playing an integral role in a side that hit 84 points, and now he's knocking on that England goalkeeping slot. I think that is something which tells you about how good Ramsdale is. His personality, his potential is so good. But at this moment, we also need, I think, the best in class. And I'm not saying Ramsdale is not the best in class, but he still has margin to improve and be better in terms of his composure. And I think Mikel Arteta has looked at it and thought, let's get in a player who at the moment is better than Ramsdale this would not only push Ramsdale to be better, but we also have a sense of reliability. And personally, I don't think Arteta was spending 30 million on a goalkeeper to make him chill on the bench. I just could not see it. I think it was quite clear what he wanted. I think even a few years ago, the summer that we signed Ramsdale, Arsenal wanted David Raya then, but he was costing like 50, 60 million because of how good he was, and we could not sign him. But right now, this summer, we identified the opportunity, we bought who we wanted in. He's obviously really close to the goalkeeping coach, and for me, it is not a surprise seeing him slot right in because I think he's a reliable player at the moment. And he showed today, man, what a performance. Like, he didn't have any big saves to make, but the way he was distributing the ball, incredible. It was fantastic, like, so reliable. Like, I remember this like time, I think it was like the 83rd minute or something like this, and Arsenal were trying to play out from the back, and the ball was played to David Raya, and it was actually not played to him in the best of situations. Like, Everton were pressing really well. This guy beat Everton's full press by pinging a diagonal to Ben White, and Arsenal were able to take the ball forward. It's these little details in these tricky moments that make David Raya, I think, such a good goalkeeper. And we could not always see it at Brentford. Like, they're a really good side. Don't get me wrong, but at a team like Arsenal, I think you will see even more of how good he is on the ball. And yeah, I'm just delighted to have two top quality goalkeepers personally. Like, I think David Raya has come in and shown already what he can do. And it'll be interesting to see, of course, if we persist with Raya for the Champions League game or keep Ramsdale. But in all honesty, Sham, I think it's a good headache to have, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think I think you and I have both gotten a lot of comments and questions from people basically insinuating that maybe it's a bigger problem than it's worth to have guys like Ramsdale and Raya together in the same team competing for just one spot. But, I think there are so many benefits from that outweigh, any potential hard feelings that there might be. You have two already top level keepers kind of competing against each other, making each other better. I think there are subtle differences in what they bring to the game that, maybe allow you to mix and match a little bit depending on what the opposition looks like. And, if one is unavailable, you don't suffer from a dip in quality, honestly. So, I think those are all really really lovely benefits to have. In terms of why Raya started today, um, I had tweeted out earlier that I thought it was a little harsh on Ramsdale because I don't think he's been excellent, but he hasn't made any particularly significant mistake that, makes you think it's time for him to sit down, right? Um, so I had a lot of people respond to that tweet saying that we're resting Ramsdale for the Champions League game. And I'm not sure how much I buy that because it's mid-September, right? The season's just started. And to for a goalkeeper especially, goalkeepers can play every 3 days pretty easily, right? For a goalkeeper to need to be rested in the Premier League, which is one of the two competitions that Ramsdale would want to play in the most this season, I I don't know. That just kind of sets off a few alarm bells for me. I think Ramsdale probably will play in the Champions League, but yeah, for Raya to get those minutes today, I think is a little bit more significant than people are maybe allowing themselves to think. And in terms of his performance, there's he did, like you said, it's small things, right? But he did those small things at an incredibly high level, right? One thing that I noticed was how he came out and claimed crosses really confidently, no mess, no fuss, just came, jumped up, grabbed it, came down, that's it. And there was that one time where Tarkowski tried to flip him over in midair, but even then, for the most part, he was in control. So that I think kind of contributes to that point you had about having that composure in the back, right? Because I think that's kind of an underrated thing. And Ramsdale, I think you're completely right in saying that Ramsdale's kind of radiated a little bit of anxiety, maybe a little bit of insecurity, and that I think that does affect your back line in front of you when they sense that, you're not 100% in control. You're not confident, right? Raya came in there and played like he owned the place. And I think that's kind of what you need from your goalkeeper. And so I think, I guess for lack of a better word, the vibes there were really good. I think he had a really good connection with Gabriella, especially. And then, Saliba and Gabriella, I think each a couple times put him in somewhat nervy situations on the ball where Everton would press Raya, and he got away with it, pretty confidently, pretty comfortably. And then the other detail that I notice is, and you've talked about this a lot with the distro, but just
You saw that
his
one
long,
moment, right? You saw that when he
yeah,
played Saka in, I think, yeah.
excellent pass, yeah.
So good.
And then even just from goal kicks and without doing the distro necessarily, um, just his long passing is way more accurate than Ramsdale's. And again, I don't think that's always important. Sometimes it's more about putting the ball in an area where it's easier to control what the opponent does with it. But
Mhm.
I think in these instances where you're able to, hit your wingers and your eights and your striker with pinpoint accuracy, especially against Everton, I think that's really valuable. So yeah, I was immensely impressed by Raya's performance today.
Yeah, and just you made some really good points, but just one more thing I'd like to add as well. Like with his weaker left foot, I'm really surprised how good he is because I've seen goalkeepers who are good on the ball, and I've seen goalkeepers who have like good vision and they're able to pick out good passes. But it's not very common that you find a keeper who's good with both feet. It's not something that goalkeepers normally are taught to do, so as to speak. And David Raya, he's so good with both feet. He's playing from with his left hand side to Ben White, from his right hand side. He's playing it to Gabriel. He's breaking lines with either foot. And wow, this is immense talent, man. Like you can say whatever you want about like Ramsey. He's a really good keeper, but I think David Raya on the ball, he's a special talent. And like I just think he's that good, and he's been coached to be like this from a young age, and exceptional performance. Even though he didn't have a save to make, but yeah, I really personally liked what I saw from him. But apart from that, really, if you look at the rest of the 11, I don't think there were any like big surprises. Obviously, we were having the debate about Fabio Vieira versus Kai Havertz, and I personally said that I would play Vieira just because of how good he was in the last couple of games. People were telling me that no, Everton away, physical match, Havertz should play. Vieira, he needs to go eat a few Big Macs. He can't compete with Onana, Doucouré, and all these guys. But today, Fabio Vieira, actually, I thought he was our biggest threat, like whilst he was on the pitch. I thought personally, the first half, that moment, obviously, early on, we had with Gabriel Martinelli, which, yeah, I don't even want to get into that decision. Like, I'm honestly done speaking about officiating and rules of
Thankfully, we
football.
don't have to today.
Yeah. Today I want to be happy. And
Yeah.
Fabio Vieira, he was quiet for the first 15 minutes, but he gets that one chance. Incredible pass to Martinelli. Like that was such a good ball and really good finish by Martinelli. Obviously, that was given as offside. But in the first half, we didn't really create much, I thought personally. But whenever we did something, it seemed to me like Fabio Vieira was the guy. If anyone was going to unlock Everton's defense that first half, it was Vieira. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on his performance today and like how big is this? Because we've seen that he can come off the bench and do something like what he did in the last couple of games. But to go to a difficult away ground with physical midfielders in the opposition, and when everyone's like, no, he's not going to play well in a ground like this, for him to go there and actually put a nice 7 out of 10,
Mhm.
isn't it very encouraging, Sham? Because I think it gives Arteta more headaches now.
No, 100%. And I was one of those people who had concerns about his qualities off the
Defensive
ball.
numbers as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Mm.
he was good. I like he wasn't obviously like near the end there we had to sub on Havertz to, kind of deal with Everton really trying to to get something out of the game. But for those first 70, 80 minutes that he was on the pitch, I thought he was just terrific. Obviously for Martinelli's goal that should have stood. Great ball in behind the Martinelli. Just the thing about Vieira's final ball is the weight. He always gets the weight 100% right.
And the
Um,
timing as well, I feel like the timing
yeah,
and the yeah, so
it,
good.
it just it's always just perfectly played so that whoever he's passing to just has to run onto it, and it reaches them in tempo with the run that they're making. It's excellent. It's honestly, I think it might be elite quality there. But um, yeah, off the ball is where I had concerns, but I don't think he really put a foot wrong. What I noticed about him is I think he picks his moments to try to win the ball back. I did notice that he had a higher success rate with his duels on FB Ref than I would have expected, but the total number of duels and tackles that he makes are fairly low. So that combined with what I saw today kind of tells me that Vieira waits for his moment to kind of nip in and win the ball back, and he was really good at that, where he would kind of come in from behind or come from the side and just kind of poke a toe in and get the ball from guys like Decore and Onana. I do think Declan Rice made his job a little easier off the ball. I'm not sure you could get away with this with Party on the pitch necessarily, or with Jorginho especially on the pitch. But that relationship between Rice and Vieira, especially off the ball, I think it works. And I think another thing that played into Vieira being as good as he was today is the fact that Everton were pretty toothless in transition. They broke on us a couple times, and there were a couple nervy moments, but they really did not put us under that much pressure whenever we lost the ball. So that is something to keep in mind. But yeah, if Vieira starts again on Wednesday, I think he's 100% earned that. And I do want to see Vieira in the Champions League, especially because I think that's an environment that he'll thrive in. So yeah, he's taking his chance, and he deserves to have a third assist of the season today. Unfortunately, he didn't get that, but yeah, I thought he was good, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned even last time that you're concerned a bit with Vieira's defensive numbers compared to Havertz, but I think Vieira is a player who's very intelligent in how he positions himself. And I know maybe it was not always the case last season, but now he's getting stuck in a bit more.
Yeah,
And as you mentioned, he was winning the ball off some of those big Everton midfielders, which I think is really positive because I think to survive in an Arteta team, you need to have something about you defensively. And I've seen him playing before for Porto, and honestly, over there, he used to like win the ball back quite often, and he used to have a bit of bite defensively. He was not
yeah,
just a fiery sort of player who's just here to do some cute touches and play balls forward. But yeah,
yeah.
on coming back to his on the ball quality, like I think he's a player who can decide games on his own. Like I cannot think, like I'm looking at all the Arsenal players. I think Martinelli is a fantastic player, but I still think he
Hmm.
needs someone to feed him and find his movements, and he maybe needs someone like Gabriel Jesus to rotate with him. I think Gabriel Jesus is a good player, but again, you need to find him. I think Odegaard, fantastic player, keeps helps us control the game well. But in terms of out and out match winners, I see two players on that pitch. One is Saka, who can get
Hmm.
past two, three players by himself and serve it on a plate to a teammate. But the other guy I'm looking at is Vieira, who I think we saw it in the last couple of games as well. But just his amazing vision, he is able to break defenses that were not getting broken for 60 minutes before he came on. And he did it
Hmm.
today as well against Everton because Arsenal in the last few seasons at Goodison Park, we don't make clear cut chances at all. Like it happened last season, it happened the season before that, it happened even during the COVID season where we needed a penalty to score because we were not creating any big chances. But 18 minutes today, he's broken that Sean Dyche backline with a superb pass, to be honest. And that is a
Yeah.
quality that very few players in this league have. I'm looking at De Bruyne, who I think has that quality, but I'm also thinking Vieira has is the same profile as Kevin De Bruyne. they have the same quality to break open defenses and win your team the game. So very excited to see him. As you mentioned, it'll be interesting to see if Mikel sticks with him in the Champions League match. But in all honesty, I'm just really happy we have options, man. Like we have
Yeah.
options now, depending on the team we play, depending on what we want. And I think that for me is the biggest positive personally. And as well, I thought like the first half obviously was not amazing. I thought we controlled the game very well in the first half. Uh, Only had three shots, and apart from the disallowed goal, I don't think we had any big chances. So personally, I was a bit annoyed going into halftime. Also with the injury to Gabriel Martinelli, hopefully he recovers soon. And Mikel brought on Leandro Trossard for Martinelli, who initially, personally, I felt Trossard wasn't so good. He seemed to be a bit out of pace with the game and was not really offering much in behind. But in the second half, Arsenal started much better and we
Yeah.
started creating chances. And I think one thing that we lack a bit, maybe as a team, still is that box efficiency. And the way Trossard took his goal today, like he didn't have a great game, but you needed him there in that moment, and that was a phenomenal finish. Like I think that's what has got us the 3 points. Otherwise, it's 0-0, and maybe we are ranting about several things. And I think that's what a game of football can come down to, right? Like that one moment where you can finish. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on Trossard, why you think his best position is, and how you think we can use his best qualities, because I look at him as a player who has phenomenal ball striking. We've seen that. Like he's a player who can score a goal out of nothing. Honestly, like he has one of the best ball striking in the squad. I would say Martinelli is the best finisher in the team, but for me, in terms of like ball striking, I would say it's Trossard who comes after Martinelli. So how is it that we can get the best out of him? Obviously, now Martinelli might miss a few games. Do you still think playing him on the left is better, or do you use him maybe in the half space? How do we get the best out of Trossard in such a way he's not only helping us score goals but also contributing to help the team play better?
Yeah, I before I talk about his best position, I do want to go to that moment, the winning goal they scored, because I think for me that illustrates more kind of what happens when teams know that you're good and they set up those low blocks against you. And that's why 2/3 of the league use low blocks on a regular basis, because they work, because they limit the number of chances that you're able to create. So what it often comes down to, at least for that first goal to open things up a little bit, is that moment of quality. Is that, is that moment when someone just comes up with a great finish, comes up with like, an excellent ball to put someone in the most optimal goal scoring situation. And, you know, going to the byline and just nailing, cutback after cutback after cutback doesn't work on low blocks a lot of the time. We'll see it, from time to time get us to win, but I think what we're going to come to realize this season is that you're going to need one of those guys to step up and just put the ball in the back of the net by any means necessary, and then go from there. And Trossard's a player who has that quality in him. I mean, we saw him during the international break for Belgium. He, beat multiple guys and then nailed in a shot off his right foot. Immense finish. And, today just,
In preseason as well, we saw it.
yeah, in preseason too. And, I think it was against Barcelona, if I remember correctly,
Yeah, a
right?
couple of goals
Yeah.
against Barcelona, and even against, I think, the MLS All Stars, he scored a screamer from his right
Yeah.
foot, just curling it in. So he's done that quite often. Even against Leicester City, when he played that false nine role for the first time, he scored an immense goal from the corner kick. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember.
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
disallowed,
Yeah.
but he has that. And that time against Southampton where he rattled the crossbar. Oh my god! In that
Yeah. No, I mean,
stoppage. Yeah.
that's the thing. He has that game breaking finish in him. And, I think that's why he's such a valuable player for us. So for me, I think his best position It honestly doesn't matter that much, but I would say his best position is at left wing. It's just that he plays that position a little bit more differently than Martinelli does, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Martinelli is a guy who does very well in the flank, is very comfortable there, and also likes to get into the penalty box. Whereas I think Trossard's a guy who a little less comfortable on the flank. I think he has the close control, that allows him to function there. But he's a guy who wants to get into that left half space and also get into the penalty box. So I think the path to success with Trossard is to play him with a left eight who's versatile enough to kind of change positions with him. And I think Gabriel Jesus also playing him at center forward. That's another guy who can swap around. So I think
mhm,
Trossard is a player who especially needs those relationships with the players around him
mhm.
to trade places and get into those situations where he's able to make a difference and cause trouble for opposing teams. So
Who do you think
um,
that left eight is though? Like who can
I mean,
you think Vieira
I
is a good player to do
I
it?
think
Because
it's
today
I
I
think
felt
it's
maybe
yeah.
it was a bit off between them a little bit.
I think it might be Vieira. I mean, I think Hazard. Sorry, not Hazard. Havertz can do it too. But I think Vieira is just a little bit more comfortable out on the wing than Havertz is.
Mm,
Um, so I mean, luckily we have options there. We have multiple guys, and even Smith Rowe, right? We have multiple guys who can play that left eight position and then kind of just swap in with Trossard. But I don't like Trossard as a full time left eight, just
mm,
because again, it's the off the ball qualities. I don't think I've seen enough from him off the ball to really think he can be, um, reliable there.
mm-hmm.
And also just I'm a little bit scarred from that Brighton game where he played left eight and
Yeah.
misplaced the pass that led to us conceding. So yeah, I just like him that little bit more left wing. I think our options at left eight are better as of
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Yeah, it just depends who's playing around him. And also, again, having a guy like Jesus on the pitch. And again, this is what Jesus has over in Kedia, right? That ability to kind of swap over with people and play
Absolutely.
multiple positions. Yeah, and Kedia is just a little bit static, not necessarily in his movement. He's, a really dynamic player, but just in terms of the positions that he takes up, it tends to kind of be in the same areas. So yeah, those are my thoughts. But I mean, where do you think Trossard's most effective?
Yeah, I'm totally inclined to agree with you here because I think he's a player that I think he's at his best when he's moving, as you
Yeah.
mentioned. I think he needs players to rotate with him. I don't think he's good when you make him receive on the touch line and make him play from there. I think he's at his best when he's going into the half space, going into the center forward position, and having players rotate with him. He has really good associative play, and
Yeah.
there are games like the Community Shield, for example, and even towards the end of last season, where he came on and he made a big impact off the bench, and that's because of his ability to combine and with different players. We also saw it in the game against Man City that we got battered in last season. I thought he was our best player once he came on because he was able to
Hmm.
pick the ball up, move, get players involved. So I think he has so much more than just ball striking. And I think it's up to Arteta to try to figure out the best way to use him to also help him make the team play better because I think we are not still seeing the best of Trossard in this role where he's a bit on the touchline. And even the goal he scored, he moved a bit because it was a corner kick, and he was there on that side. We created an overload on the right hand side. And I think he's at his best when he has that freedom just to move and play. And
Yeah.
his goal was scored with his weaker foot, which is immense if you think about it. Like, not many players can finish like that with their weaker foot. So, man, what a player. I think he's on one of our most underrated buys for like 25 million. And one thing's for sure, we have, I think, 6 games coming up in the next 20 days, which is a lot of matches in different competitions. And with
Yeah.
Martinelli potentially injured, I think Trossard, he's going to play and he's going to do really well in the upcoming matches. I have full faith in him. And yeah, I back him to do well. And I think it's also a good headache that Arteta has because, for example, against United, he brought on Reece Nelson, but today he
Hmm.
opted to bring on Trossard. So it's awesome that we have that option to actually change the dynamic in the way that we want. So lot of positives to take there. I think Trossard showed that he's still, even if he's not playing well, he's a player who can come alive in that one moment. And in a tough away ground like Everton, at least tough for Arsenal, we need that moment of quality. And Trossard today, he provided that. But you were mentioning about him needing a player like Gabriel Jesus, and I completely agree with that. I just wanted to ask you about Eddie because
Hmm.
personally, I'm a big fan of Eddie. I don't think many have defended Eddie more than I have, but I feel like today was not his best game. And against certain types of teams that especially defend deep, I just think that we are less dynamic in the final third with Eddie up front, personally. I feel like we are very predictable because teams sort of know that we're going to play to him. And I mean, the whole attack is built around him. And don't get me wrong, he's played really well this season. But I'm just looking at the effect it has on some of the other players, whether that's Martinelli or Saka, players like this, who actually played their best football with Gabriel Jesus, laying the ball
Hmm.
off, helping them, get into good situations. So I'm just curious about the trickle effect playing Eddie up front might have on the rest of the team. And do you think I'm reading too much into it, or is there some validity here to suggest that no, maybe for I guess most games, because most teams will sit deep against Arsenal, that Gabriel Jesus should be the first choice option?
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with what you're saying. I don't think you're reading into it too much. Before I say anything, I just want to note that again, Eddie Nketiah has become a really good center forward, right? I think he's, in terms of finding a player who is, a backup to your starting striker and a guy that you can rely on for, runs of several games at a time. I don't think you're going to find any better than Nketiah. But again, this is kind of the thing that Jesus has over him, right? I think, especially against low blocks, I think you need one of two things. Either you need kind of like a big man center forward who functions as an offensive fulcrum, and you play off of them, and they kind of give you a reference point, right? In terms of that's where the ball's going, and then from there he can play in the wings, he can play in the eights, he can play in a second striker. Um, or you have a mobile, dynamic center forward who can pick up the ball and run at people, can swap positions, just, excuse me, just creates havoc for the opposing defense. And then Ketty, unfortunately, isn't really either of those guys. And,
Hmm.
again, this I think this is kind of part of the issue with what we saw with Havertz in the first 4 games of the season. Havertz is playing as something of a second striker, and a second striker needs a guy to play off of, whether it's one of those two kinds of forwards I mentioned. And
Absolutely.
Havertz didn't really, yeah, and Havertz didn't really have that. Jesus is a guy you can play off of. Jesus is a guy who brings everybody in that front five into the game. So I wanted Jesus to come on and get involved, and I think he did that when he eventually did step on the pitch. I remember at the end of the first half, Sky Sports showed a graphic that kind of it showed like the top 5 players with the least amount of touches in the game so far for both teams, right? And the second least was 12. I forget who it was. It might have been Beto or someone like that, one of
Yep.
their forwards. The bottom was Eddie Nketiah with 8 touches in
Yeah.
the first half. And so that's the thing. Nketiah wasn't really getting involved, and he was, I'm sure the plan was to make runs into the box and kind of pull defenders with him and open things up. But unfortunately, I don't think that works. The low block as good as Everton's. You need a guy who really, you need a guy who can get the ball and turn and make
Yeah.
the defense make decisions in real time. So
100%.
yeah, so I think that's, if Nketiah wants to hit that level, I think that's the next evolution he needs to make, which is to figure out whether he can be a guy who, again, offensive fulcrum or, chaos factor, one of those two guys. So yeah, I think that was the primary issue there, and I think that's why things changed a little bit when Jesus came on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think Gabriel Jesus, what he gives us, I think we saw it against United as well. I thought we played our best football once he came on. And today, of course, the game state was a bit different, but I still think that, in games like this, low blocks, I don't think having a poacher is the best option personally.
Mhm.
And even Man City, I know they have Haaland there, but the only reason the team is playing that way is because it's Erling Haaland. uh, I mean, Eddie is a good player, but I don't think he's on Haaland's level. So I think it's important, like, for us to recognize that, yeah, if you're playing Eddie up front, it might be better off against the team that is going to play a bit high, because he does run well in behind, and we've seen Vieira feeding him well when he makes those runs. But against teams that sit as deep as Everton and teams like this too, I don't think he's the answer. And I look at him more as an option off the bench when we're chasing the game. If we need that extra body, he's a player that can come in and score. Or even if we're ahead and have the lead, teams would be more higher. So he could come on and he could stretch defenses. But I think in a game state where it's 0-0 against the low block, personally, like, I just don't see him as like the player to make a stick. And I think it's quite clear that Jesus should play. I think even last season, there was a time when Jesus was out injured, and Eddie also got injured. But then when he came back, Arteta was still playing Trossard for those run of 5 or 6 games up
Mhm.
front, and we were so good in those 5 to 6 matches because, again, we had a player who was facilitating and bringing um, everyone into the match. And I think that's what Arsenal need. And I think Eddie can still be a really valuable player in the FA Cup, in the League Cup, and off the bench as well. But starting against teams like Everton at Goodison Park, I'm not sure personally. I might be a bit harsh here, but I would I would stick with Gabby Jesus right from the next match, and get back to the dynamics that made us so good last season. So this is what I would do personally. But again, the reason we were not playing well today was not because of Eddie alone. I think as a team, Arteta is making us a bit more conservative in how we are attacking. I feel like he wants us to control games better, take lesser risks in certain areas, and essentially make us like how City are, where we're just a professional outfit that will go there. We will play in a certain way. Maybe it's a bit boring, but we still end up winning the game. I think today we deserve to win the game. There's no question in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way we go about it might not always be super appealing. But I just want to speak to you about one thing, which is after we went 1-0 up, right?
Hmm.
I know there were a couple of situations where we gave the ball away, but don't you think we were quite professional with how we closed the game out today? There was much lesser stress, and obviously we spoke about David Raya at the start, showing a lot of composure on the ball. But isn't this refreshing to see, Sham, that okay, we showed, I think, really good professionalism today. I don't think we gave Everton any clear-cut chances. There were no glaring errors. Like, obviously in football, not all your 11 players are not going to have 100% passing accuracy. So you might give
Yeah.
the ball away once or twice. But apart from that, don't you think that the composure we showed is something that we can take a lot of positive from?
It was very mature. It
Yeah.
was a really mature performance. That was a performance of a team that's been told that they've given games away too often for no reason. And yeah, it was really interesting to see, right? Because as soon as we went 1-0 up, I think we slowed down slightly. And obviously Everton, immediately kind of got into the game a little bit more, played with a lot more urgency. So, myself and I'm sure millions of other Arsenal fans are kind of sitting there, kind of thinking to themselves, are we going to capitulate again? Are we going to, needlessly let an opponent back into the match when we kind of have it covered? And we didn't. I think we were really smart with the ball. We were really tight and secure in possession. There was that one moment where kind of Gabriel tries to play a pass, and I think it was probably Calvert Lewin at this point gets a foot on it, and Everton win it back basically in our third, but Gabriel rushes to defend it and gets a deflection. It goes out, and I think he and Zinchenko have a few words exchanged. Um, and so there, even if it's not flawless necessarily, there's that desperation to prevent the other team from scoring, and that's, I think, at the very base of it, what you want to see. So, yeah, I think they did a really good job of closing the match out. It was a good balance of, again, good defending, really secure defending, not taking that many risks. Not I noticed we didn't really commit as many men forward when we got off the pitch. The corners were definitely kind of designed to eat up a few seconds off the clock here and there. And obviously, Everton didn't like it because there's apparently, I think there's been complaints from Sean Dyche, and Sky Sports is pushing this narrative of, are Arsenal allowed to time waste now? And so,
I
but
can't
yeah, I
believe
think,
it.
yeah, yeah. The time wasting discussion is always dumb to me, because if you're in the position to do it, you're going to do it. So, as long as you are not blatantly violating the rules that we all now know are there, there's no problem with that. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, we saw the match out, and it was pretty drama free for the most part. And so, it kind of had that feel of Manchester City to it, where if you are not going to kill them on the scoreboard, you're at least going to control the match to the point where, you take the air out of it, you suffocate it. So, yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of, even when Everton needed to attack, when they needed to get something out of the game, they didn't really get much of a sniff. I don't remember a single chance that Everton had that was a clear goal scoring opportunity. So I think that's a
Wow.
pretty impressive feat, especially at Goodison Park.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think also to get off the mental block is so important. And at this early stage as well, like, if we drop today, we're already like 5 points behind City, who
Yeah,
don't seem to be showing any signs of slowing down. So I think just to be in it, I think we need to be, I don't know, to within 2 to 3 points of City, uh, going into like a run in March, April, and then we need to defeat Man City when we get the chance to, and try
yeah,
to bridge the gap. I think, yeah, I mean, I think if we look at City every week, we're going to go a bit crazy. But what's important is for us to be professional and get the job done. And that's what we did today.
yeah, yeah. I think, just on that point about City, I think it's very indicative of how fine the margins are. Where
Hmm.
we're 5 games into the season, we're already kind of playing this game in our heads of, well, if we lose today, we're 4 points behind Manchester City, and
Crazy.
how are we going to make those points up? Even right now, still undefeated in the
Yeah.
season so far, four wins and a draw. We are 2 points behind Manchester City. Obviously, I don't think City are going to keep that up. I don't think they're going to win every single match.
Yeah, but the
Fingers,
way they
finger,
play,
finger,
it's just like
fingers crossed. But if they win every single match, then hand the Premier League trophy to them. They've earned it. But
liquidate.
yeah, but yeah, I just, I think the the name of the game right now is just not doing anything stupid, winning the
Hmm.
matches that we should be winning, controlling games so we can take as many points as we can, and just, staying right there with, um within like a striking distance of
Yeah.
City, so that, when they do slip up, when they do drop points, and they will. This is the Premier League. Someone's going to get a draw, someone's going to beat them. And, if we just keep doing our thing and keep being professional like we were today, I think that opportunity will eventually present itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just focus on our own lawn, take it game by game. We now play
Yeah.
the Champions League, so we have to do that. And yeah, I mean, I'm so excited, man. Like this week, hearing that UCL music at the carpet after 6 years, or 6.5 years it's been, which is, oof, it's crazy to think about it. We're going to hear the UCL music again. We're playing at home. We're
Yeah.
back after so long, and it's just going to be an amazing occasion, isn't it, Sham? Like, we've been dreaming, not dreaming. I mean, Arsenal are a Champions League club, and we're expected to be here bare minimum. But me personally, like, I've just been dreaming of this moment when we're back in this competition, because like this is where we belong, don't we?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think it's going to be very emotional for me personally because the last time we were in the Champions League it was 2017, right?
Yeah, we lost
Uh,
5-1 to
y-
Bayern.
yeah, and I'll, I'm 30 now, right? And so I guess what I'd say is if I had told myself 7 years ago or 6 years ago that that
Hmm.
was the last game Arsenal were going to play in the Champions League in my 20s, I think I would have been inconsolable.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's going to be great to be back, and I think this team's up for it,
Hmm.
and I think we have a very winnable group stage. I mean, we haven't really chatted about our draw, have we?
No.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's us, PSV, Sevilla, and
Lens or Lens.
oh yeah, Lons. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are all decent teams, but teams that we should be showing pretty convincingly that we're better than. And those are all teams as well that have lost key players in the summer.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think they're all there to be they're all there for the taking. And
Absolutely.
it's just a matter of us, again, showing up and being professional and playing to the level that we should expect
Yeah.
ourselves to play to. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Europa League level group in the Champions League. I take that all day long.
Yeah.
Like, personally, though, like I want revenge against Bayern Munich. Like, I really want us to play them and destroy them because I think we can destroy them. Honestly, like they're not like good. They're amazing side, but they still like. I feel like they're not like how they were 6 years ago, and we are also not like how we were 6 years ago. We've improved so much. So
Yeah.
I want revenge against some of these teams that made my childhood shit. So yeah,
And
hopefully we can do it.
we know how to put Harry Kane in our pocket. So I think that is something
I,
that, will be an advantage for us going into that game.
I'm
Obviously,
not sure
he has
about
better.
that because they always get the he always gets the penalty against
That's
us
true.
in the North
That's
London
true.
derby.
Hopefully that doesn't hold up now that he's no longer a Spurs player, but we'll
Yeah, it's
see.
first
Uh
tax.
yeah. I will be watching that Bayern United match this week because I think it'll be very informative as to where they are, compared to Premier League opposition. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Um, I do want to get your thoughts, kind of turning back to the Everton match on Declan Rice's performance
Oh yeah, how
because
did we not
because I
win?
thought he was absolutely immense today.
Oof. Unreal, man. Like, oh my God. Like, the last few times we played against Everton, especially the last time, we got run over in midfield, okay? Like,
Yeah,
on transition, Onana, Gay, and also, who's the other guy? Decore. They were feasting, okay? They were absolutely feasting on us. Every time we
yeah,
lost the ball, they'd come. We wouldn't have a midfield, okay? And remember, we had Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka in midfield, and still they ran through that midfield. Now we have Fabio Vieira, who's not as good defensively as Xhaka is. And of course, we have Odegaard, who we also had before. So ideally, we should be worse defensively than we were like in Feb. But no,
yeah.
we have Declan Rice now in the middle of midfield, right? And you have some fans giving
Hi,
you some
Alex.
love. Yeah. Declan Rice, I've run out of superlatives to describe his performance and how good he is. Today was a midfield masterclass, but I think this is becoming a weekly thing, but against every team we play against, he's just putting out the 7, 8 out of 10s every week. I mean, today I don't think he did something which is exceptional where you're like, oh my God, but he did what he does good. Like he has that athleticism, that physicality, and Onana, Ducouré and Gay, they were not able to go past him. Like he was winning everything. Every second ball, he was winning. Wherever the ball fell, he was there to win the ball. And as Mikel
Yeah,
said, win the fogging duels. And that's exactly what Declan did today. And yeah,
it's the name of the game.
I feel bad that we only paid 110 million for Declan Rice. We should pay like 200. I feel really bad for cheating West Ham the way we have, but it is what it is. It's the biggest robbery I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's we've all seen those charts, right? Of the most expensive transfers of all time, and then you go down the list, and it's guys like Pogba and Ronaldo and Anthony and Sancho. All United players, by the way. But you know, most of the time, if you pay that kind of money, you're not going to get a return on investment, not even close. And for Rice to be as good as he is, this guy went toe to toe with again a midfield of Onana, Decore, and Gay, right? And probably had to do an outsized portion of the work there because the two guys ahead of him, right, Odegaard and Vieira, those aren't defensive powerhouses. I think they both have their strengths there. Like we've talked about, I think they're both very dedicated in their defending when they need to be. Um, but that was mostly a 3-on-1 battle, and Rice came out victorious. And there's that one um, sequence of play where we lost the ball two or three times in midfield, and every single time Rice just was there to kind of snap into the challenge, win the ball back, poke it over to a teammate, and try to get an attack going. And just the the level of effectiveness that he has there, and the ability that he has to kind of let the front five focus on playing attacking football, I think is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of at the point where if you don't think he's an elite number 6 in today's game, then you're lying to yourself or you don't know football. It's one of those two things because
Oh yeah, you're a Chelsea, United, Spurs, Liverpool fan who's so salty to admit that we have the GOAT DM in football. So yeah.
100%. Yeah. And this is why, you and myself and so many other people were begging for this. We're so excited and on edge and anxious throughout that, entire transfer quote unquote saga, right?
Yeah.
Because we knew just the level that he would take us to if we were able to make that signing happen. You know, and Arsenal know kind of what his importance is to this team. So yeah, he was absolutely terrific, and as long as he's able to play, and as long as we're able to kind of take care of him and spell him out every once in a while. He can't play all 60 games that we're going to play this season, but yeah, just a absolutely phenomenal player.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
yeah.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna move on to Ben White, but did you have anything else on Rice that you want to add?
Oh no, nothing else to add on Declan. Like, yeah, just run out of words for him. What a signing.
Yeah, just terrific player. Yeah, I think one last guy I want to highlight from today is Ben White because I think he had a really good game,
Yeah.
and especially after that United game where just something about Marcus Rashford seems to be tricky for him.
Yeah.
I will say Rashford's pretty dangerous when he cuts onto his right foot, and he's very quick. So he's very effective at doing that. Very pacey player, but I think White, after having a not so great performance against United, redeemed himself today. Because he was dealing with Beto, he was dealing with Danjuma, and I think he acquitted himself very nicely. I mean, he helped keep both those guys quiet. Danjuma, especially, I think, is one of the more underrated players in the Premier League. I thought he was very impressive for Spurs when he was there, and I thought it was a good get for Everton when they managed to sign him as well. So yeah, he's
Mhm.
he's a very effective, underrated winger, and yeah, I think White was good defensively, but in addition to that, I think he was just immensely involved on that right hand side, especially in the final third. I
Mhm.
think he was combining really well, and he was also kind of he was excellent support for Odegaard and Saka for when we lost that ball because it felt like
Yeah. Yeah.
if Rice didn't get to it, he got to it almost every single
Mhm.
time. So I think I sensed kind of a renewed commitment, I guess, to just making sure that he won the ball back, especially on those rare occasions when he was the one to lose it. So I just thought he was really reliable today. Looked pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, he's on. I guess 9 out of 10 game weeks, he's top. And there might always be one or two games where, yeah, when you come up against someone good, that or someone like Mitoma, that yeah, you might get shredded in a couple of games. But I mean, I think most right backs do get outplayed by those two players, especially when they're 1v1 against you. And you have to also consider how high we defend. We're not like United, who sets up shop outside their penalty box and waits for people to come at them. We're playing a really high line. So, I mean, I think it's quite natural. And as well, the role that White has is so dynamic, like on the ball. We build up in the three, he's helping us build up. But then as we move forward, he's also shifting to a right back, he's overlapping. So the role that he plays is quite complex and he does it really well. And I think, you know, it's nice to see him back. But for me, it's not a surprise. And he's one of those players that I don't even think it's about confidence for him. Like, I don't think he's
Mhm.
psychologically built that way, like, oh, I need to play well and then build that confidence. I think he can have a bad game and he can pick himself up just like that, because it's like, okay, the game is done. Let me just focus. So I think his mentality is very interesting. And even in difficult moments, he seems to keep his composure really well. So, yeah, nice to see Ben back amongst the top performers today. And long may it continue.
Yeah, 100%. Well, before we put a bow on this, right? We have a Champions League match on Wednesday, right? Like we said, first one in 6 years, and going to be a very
Oof.
emotional return. I guess, are you looking for Arteta to do anything different with the lineup entering that match?
I mean, I don't really see what he can change in terms of. I think we have to play our best 11. I don't think this is the
Yeah.
Europa League where you can play all your sub players. So I think we have to play our best 11. But I think we might see a couple of changes. So I can see Gabriel Jesus coming back. I can see Trossard coming for Martinelli, who might be injured. But apart from this, I don't really see any changes. I I'll be very surprised if we play Havertz for Vieira, but it might be possible still. But apart from two
Hmm.
or three positions, I don't really see any big rotation for the Champions League. The week after, we have a game against Brentford in the Carabao Cup. For that, I can see us making 6 to 7 changes, but nothing for this week in the Champions League. I think we're going to play a very similar team to Everton. A couple of changes, Jesus and Trossard in for me. How about yourself, Sham?
Yeah, I think. I think Trossard obviously will start at left wing, and yeah, I think Jesus will come in as well. Yeah, it's obviously we're not going to do a full scale rotation of the team. I think a lot of the guys who played then will play today will play then. I think it just kind of goes back to that Ramsdale Raya thing where I'm just looking to see who starts. I'm expecting Ramsdale to start. I think
Mm-hmm.
Arteta's quotes suggest that he is aiming for some form of rotation here.
What did
But
he say exactly?
uh,
Do you remember?
let me pull it up. It was I saw that Simon Collins tweeted it a little while ago. It was pre-match. Sorry, 1 second. Here we go. He said, I think I mentioned it that we wanted to build a squad with two quality players in each position with different characteristics, and we have got that now. And to maximize that, they have to play games, and we have a lot of things coming up now. And we have the same with other players we have rotated, and there will be a lot of game time in the next few weeks. So
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's interesting. But whether it means Ramsey is going to play the Champions League or whether Ramsey is going to play the Carabao Cup, I guess time will tell. But yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, I mean honestly, what that tells me is it depends on how they think PSV is going to approach us, right? If they think um, PSV is going to kind of press us a little bit and leave some space in behind, then maybe you do play Raya, right, to play those balls over the top and beat the press. But um, on the opposite end of that, if you think PSV is going to sit back and let us break them down, maybe you play Ramsdale just to have that build up quality. I don't know, or maybe you reverse those two.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
I think it
I
does.
just, I just, I just feel like no matter what the scenario is at this moment, in terms of if you're looking at who's a better goalkeeper, I think there's
Yeah,
just one winner, and that's David Raya. So it's going to be
that could be the
interesting.
case.
It's going to be
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So we will see what happens. I mean, any other takeaways from this match?
Um, I have to just for one last thing, I just have to shout out the set piece coach as well, Nicholas
Yeah,
Yover. Like I know we've criticized the way we do set pieces, like not offensive but defensive in the past. But today I thought the set pieces, the way we defended, even that couple of free kicks or that one corner that Everton had, we did well. We didn't let Tarkovsky bounce over some player and score. And even the way we worked our corners, I thought was very smart. And that's what ultimately led to the goal. So fair play to the set
yeah.
piece coach and the other supporting staff who have obviously worked on this drill in the training ground, and it led to a goal.
Yeah, yeah. I think we've continued being very effective on set pieces. Obviously, there's still that bit of concern on how we defend them, but in terms of how we attack for
Mhm.
them, I think we've been pretty good so far. So, yeah, Nicholas Yover once again coming in clutch. So that was nice to see. But I think that'll do it from both of us for today.
Yep.
Again, absolutely great win. We really broke that duck. We bucked that trend. We got that monkey off our backs of the nightmare at Goodison Park. So
Yep.
you know that's always great to see. Got three really important points as we continue. At least hoping to push City as far as they can go. And yeah, we will be back at some point this week, probably this weekend, to chat about
Yep.
both the Champions League match and we're playing Spurs at the weekend.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. Well, we'll talk about the champ. We'll talk about our first Champions League match in 6 years and the North London Derby this weekend, and we'll see about maybe bringing on a guest to talk about the Ramsdale Raya situation. So yeah, thank you as always for being here with us, for taking that time to listen to us talk about the Arsenal, to chat football. Once again, if you're watching on YouTube, please do like and subscribe and comment. We love to see people giving their thoughts and kind of telling us what they think, and we'll be in the comments there with you to kind of respond and chat about footy with you. And then if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review, tell your friends, and help us grow this podcast and this YouTube channel, and just make it a big thing. So I'm Sham, he's Sash, and you can follow me on Twitter at Shamsdale. You can follow Sash on Twitter at LT Arsenal. You can follow the pod at This Week Arsenal. Once again, we will be back this weekend to talk about two pretty significant matches. But until
Victories.
then, yeah, definitely. Sorry, I forgot to do that. We'll be here next this coming weekend to talk to you about a win against PSV and a win against Spurs. But until then, stay safe, take care, and talk to you soon.